Welcome to day 66 of building the flight booking engine. Today we're going to build Google login. I am now moving towards the end of the MVP and I hope to get done with it in the next few videos. So now in this video, let us understand how to have Google OAuth or login with Google or social login in this flight booking engine. And the principles apply, okay, to all other kinds of social logins or dealings with OAuth2 that you may encounter. So the first thing you need to do is to have a Google Cloud account, okay? So I will maybe just highlight this and show you. Okay, this is one of the hobby accounts I've been using for my account. Okay, so you need to get, I think I need to share this in the description. Okay, console.google.cloud.com. Of course, right now it is appending this welcome and then the project equals to Aerobound Ventures. Okay, because that's how the console works. It attaches the currently active project. Okay, but once you come here, there's a lot that you can do. Okay, so make sure you have created your Google Cloud account. Okay, to create a project, I think you need to go to the same subdomain, but / project create, and it's actually quite easy. Okay, and I will share this in the description. Okay, so when you're done, you simply create a project. Okay, I'm going to give this project a name. Okay, I've already created one for Airbound Ventures. That's why you see up here, you see it says Airbound Ventures selected. Okay, then this other one called nearest hospitals. But if you click new project, okay, it still takes you to the same page. You get it? So I can cancel. I don't need that for now. So I'll say sample project name. Okay. Okay, they're saying invalid characters. I'll just say sample project like that. Organization, no organization. Okay. I'll simply click create. So when you have done, when you're done with creating the project, okay, the next thing that we need to do is to create credentials. Okay, very, very important. And I see where my cursor is. I'll click here and select that sample project. Okay, so that it is now the currently active project. Now, there's so many things that you can do. In the search here, I can simply look for APIs. Okay, I can look for APIs and services. Okay, so you see this, we have APIs and services. So click, give it some time to load. After APIs and services, go to credentials. I see it's very easy. So we need to configure our credentials. But before that, they're saying, remember to configure the OAuth consent screen with information about your application. So we need to configure this, okay? If we try to avoid it, we won't avoid it, okay? We have to. So the consent screen is where you're going to see where that page where Google asks you, are you sure you want to allow this application to maybe take your username, email, and profile picture? That is the consent screen to allow our user to accept to be authenticated using Google. So if I try to click on create credentials, okay, I can go to this. I see this which is saying OAuth client ID, and I click. It's what we need, okay, but still we're going to be required to create to configure, I mean, the consent screen. So it says a client ID is used to identify a single app to Google OAuth servers. If your app runs on multiple platforms, each will need its own client ID. And that is true. Like, for example, you have a mobile app, web app, desktop app, okay, IoT device. Each of them will need their own client ID. So to create a client ID, we must first configure the consent screen. So I'll click configure consent screen. So it says we have to click on this, get stated. Okay, then the app name, okay, I can simply put maybe Nehe app, okay, to keep it simple. Support email, I can use the same email I use for my projects, okay. Then I can click next, okay. So there are two types of audiences, okay. There's the internal audience and the external audience. For internal, it says only available users within your organization. You will not submit, you will not need to submit your app for verification. But I can't select this because I am not a Google Workspace user. But if I was a Google Workspace user, I would be able to select this. Okay, so the only option I have is external. So if you are a Google Workspace user, you can go with internal, but I'm using external. And what is the definition for internal? It's very good to actually read the things and know what they're all about. External says available to test. Oh my God, what's wrong with my reading today? It says available to any test user with a Google account. I'm becoming like an NLM, okay? Just hallucinating words without giving focus to them. It says available to any test user with a Google account. It says your app will start in testing mode and will only be available to users you add to the list of test users. Okay. Once your app is ready to push to production, you may need to verify your app. Then I'll say next. Okay. The contact email, I can put this one. Okay. That I'm already using for my projects. Then I say next. Okay. Agree to the Google API services user data policy. Click continue and finish. Okay. So it's processing. Okay. And looks like we are done with the consent screen. Okay. So now I can now go back to, I think, either clients, not clients. I can search for still API, go to API and services, click on this API and services. Okay. Then click on credentials. In fact, I should have just searched for credentials. Then you can now click create credentials, click OAuth client ID. Okay. So application type, we now choose. Ours is a web application. But like you can see, they have Android, there's Chrome extension, there's iOS, there's TV, unlimited input devices. There is a desktop app. There's a UWP, which is a universal Windows platform. Several things. So I will choose web application. Okay. And you can give it a name. Okay. I'll leave it as that. Okay. And then you need to add what they call the authorized redirect URI. Okay. This is going to be the URI whereby after successful authentication, Google will redirect to. Okay. So you can put your domain, okay, .com, maybe question mark, maybe redirect, okay, something like that. But I am going to show you the one for actually our application, how it is. Okay. In fact, let me show you right now. The one for our application is, I'm going to explain to you a number of things soon, is this one here. So get back here. Okay. This is the one we're going to be using for development. Okay. Localhost, let me try to expand it. Localhost 8000, auth, Google callback. Okay. This is how it is. This is where Google, this is the URL or URI that Google will redirect requests to. As simple as that. Okay. So this is when you want to handle requests with a web server. We are using FastAPI, okay, on the backend, okay, and UVCon is running our web server. That is why I've chosen this. But if you want to work from the browser, you can use this, okay? You can use this other one. So I'll remove it, okay, and then say create. So here we are, we have our credentials, okay? We have the client ID. So you copy this and go to your virtual environment, not virtual environment, your environment variables, okay? and then you say Google client ID equals to that ID. Let me copy this, okay? Then I paste it, get back here, copy the client secret, okay? And paste. So this is how it should work. Remember, guys, these are secrets. Do not share them, okay? I am doing this right now because I'm going to delete this app, okay? I already configured an app, okay? And I have the secrets in my .env, okay? So in your .env.exam, this is just an example file, okay? To show you what to do. So I'm going to come here, okay? Go to the project settings, okay? I want to on sample project, okay? I want to see if I can go to the project. There's something I need to see, okay? I was actually deleting projects, okay? So don't use these keys. In fact, let me remove them, okay? And don't share your keys. I'm going to delete that app just to make sure that someone malicious does not take advantage of them, okay? So I'm going to activate the Airbound Ventures, okay, which I created earlier. So the Airbound Ventures app, okay, or the project is what I used earlier, okay, and I configured it. So once you've done picking your secret, okay, your secret and ID, set it up in your .env, okay, or your environment variables if you're not using an .env. After that, the next thing we need to do is to change the models, okay? So today I'm taking a different approach, okay? So just to save time, because it's actually very easy, like you're going to see. It's not hard at all. But of course, I don't want to assume it is easy for everybody. In case you have a question, go ahead and ask. So in the model, there are additions, okay? Not additions, okay, an addition and a modification, okay? The first thing is the password is now nullable, okay? Because users who are going to log in using Google are not going to type or enter a password, okay? So the first thing is that the password is nullable. Then also, in addition to that, I want to track the Google ID, okay? Which can also be nullable. It can be null, okay? And I've said index equals to true because we can need to fetch by Google IDs, okay? We're going to get by Google IDs, okay? And if there are many, we want them to be indexed, okay? Then the auth provider, okay, simply specifies whether we are giving you, not giving you, but whether you are authenticating using an email or Google, okay? So it could be Google, it could be email, it could be Facebook, it could be LinkedIn, it could be GitHub, it could be TikTok, whatever, okay? Apple, depending, okay? So those are the major differences, okay? So password is now nullable, okay? Because with social login, you don't need the password. You have your Google ID, okay? And the auth provider, okay? In fact, here maybe I should have put provider ID, okay? And auth provider being maybe a foreign key to a table having a list of auth providers. That is something you can do to have it much better. After that, what you need, of course, is to run an Alembic migrations, okay? And by now, I assume you all know Alembic migrations, okay? And this is the migration file. So make sure when you have this project in your local development setup, make sure you run the migrations, okay? Very simple. Just do docker exec, okay? If you want it to be, it can be interactive, okay? And then you simply now specify the I think it's called the container name. I think it's FastAPI app, okay? Like AI is suggesting. After that, what do you do? UV run Alembic, okay? Zit upgrade head and hit enter, okay? And it will apply the migration or the new revision, okay? So there's no need to go through all the Alembic migration, okay? That will be a lot of time wasted, okay? But it's simply going to alter the columns, okay? And add columns to our database and modify a few constraints. Okay, so what will happen is that we shall have a Google Auth provider column, Google ID column, and a password field now changed to nullable. As simple as that. Okay, if you don't understand this, please let me know. And of course, I'm going to push the code to GitHub. So after that, the next thing we need is routers. Okay, we need routers. So for the routers, I have a file called oauth.py. Okay, and I'm going to explain everything here. I don't know why this is not being resolved. Okay, it's funny because actually it was working fine. But let me explain to you. Okay, so this module here has majorly two endpoints. Okay, one is this one here you've seen /Google and /Google callback. Okay, one is to redirect a user to the consent screen which we configured on the Google Cloud Platform. The other one handles the callback, okay, and creates or finds a user. So I'm going to explain to you in a bit right now. And of course, everything which is above here, I'm going to explain them to you as we go on. So /auth /Google, okay. Function is called Google login, okay. The path partition is called Google login, and it's an async def. Takes in a redirect, okay. Query parameter, which is by default none, okay, but it is a string. And then we first of all check, okay, if there is no Google client ID, we log an error saying that the Google Auth is not configured, okay, and we say there's the missing Google client ID, and raise an exception, okay, so with a status code of 503 service unavailable, okay. Otherwise, if things are okay, we now save the state, okay? We save the state to avoid malicious hackers, okay, from trying to maybe push a request, okay? This one will work like a CSRF token, okay? And here what we do is that we get the redirect URL, okay? And then encode it, okay? So if the redirect URL exists, we shall encode it. If it does not exist, okay, we shall simply redirect it to the home page. Okay, that's why you're seeing a / here. As simple as that. So we encode. Why do we encode? Because URLs can have special characters, okay, and that can malform or make our URL invalid. Okay, so we encode them, okay, in the base64 format. Okay, as simple as that. So that will help us to save the state of the URL. Okay, and after that we simply log, okay, that we're now going to initiate a Google login. And to initiate the login, we need the number of parameters. Okay, the first one is the client ID, which is from our environment variables, which I just showed you. That client ID, we pick it from the environment variable, from the environment, okay, by saying os.get env Google client ID, okay, and we pass it here. We do the same thing for the redirect URI, okay, where we're going to redirect you after you have accepted the consent, after you've confirmed that it's okay to authenticate using Google. We're going to redirect you to this URL, okay, this one here, okay. But of course, in your environment variables, make sure you specify this. So let me add it so that those who will be practicing, okay, will need it, okay. So I'll leave that as an example. Let's go on. So down here, then you see the response type will be a code, okay. The scope we shall need the open ID, the email and profile. The access type will be offline, okay. The prompt, this is for consent, okay. We want to get their consent. Then the state is simply this URL, okay. As simple as that. Then we now form the URL. How do we form the URL? We send to do authentication, okay, and to get that consent, we send a request to this URL called Google Auth URL, okay, which is https accounts.google.com/o/oauth slash v2 slash auth, okay, which is simply this one here. Then we add query parameters. How do you add query parameters? You specify a question mark, okay? Then you add all these params, okay? But you cannot add them as a dictionary, okay? We URL encode them, okay? So this is a function in Python which will encode the dictionary, okay, into query strings, okay, or query parameters for us, okay? So key value, key value, key value, okay? And it will be simply one long string. Then we return a redirect response, okay? So I want to show you how this is actually working. I want to first show you this, okay, before we continue. And of course, I'm going to show you the front-end code soon. So I was running the front-end earlier. I hope it's still running. So let me go to login. So you see this time we have continue with Google here, okay? And I'm going to explain to you on the front end how this comes about. But it's very simple. It's very simple. So I'll click continue with Google, okay? So we now choose an account, okay? We choose an account, okay? So do you see this? Do you see the consent screen? It says Errorbound Ventures, review Errorbound Ventures privacy policy in terms of service to understand how Errorbound Ventures will process and protect your data. To make changes at any time, go to your Google account, okay? So it says you are signing back into Errorbound Ventures. Are you seeing how nice that is? Okay, this is very cool. Okay, Ahmad. Hello, Ahmad. Thank you for joining today's stream. Ahmad says they are loving the series. I'm very happy to hear that. I hope everybody else is loving this series. Please share this series, by the way, with people in your network, okay? On your social media, everywhere, okay? Who knows? Someone else might love this too and benefit. Thank you for being an active participant. So let's continue, okay? So if I say continue, so this is the consent string, the consent, the stages you go through to accept the consent, okay? And by doing that, we have been automatically logged in without having to enter our email and password. I see how simple it is, okay? And I'm going to show you that on the front end, okay? But I wanted to show you that this redirect, let me log out again, okay? Login, okay? So all this, this function is handling everything. When we click that button, login with Google, okay? This is called, okay? This is the result of why, this is the reason why I showed you what is happening this side, okay? This path operation here and everything here, what I just explained to you, this redirect response, everything here, okay, is what leads us to this, okay? Why? Because we send a request to the Google Auth URL, okay? And it is, where does it work seamlessly? Because we send to the front end a redirect response. I want you guys to take note of this, okay? It is the redirect response. The front end will know about it, okay? And redirect to the correct page, like I'm going to show you very soon. Ahmad says the honor is all mine. Lena says, yes, I love the series. Despite joining you after you've done many streams, I still get the concepts. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah. One of the signs you're now getting into the software engineering realm, okay, whereby you can hop anywhere and quickly grasp things. Thank you for joining today's stream, Linus. So I hope everybody now understands this, okay? How the redirect is happening, okay? And how we have this consent screen, okay? This is how you get to work with what? Google. In fact, the concept, like I told you, okay? In software engineering or computer science, the concepts are always the same, okay? They don't change, they are always the same. So once you understand how to implement social login with Google, the concept is the same everywhere else, okay? The standard of OAuth2 applies everywhere. So that is it, okay? So once we are done, okay, once we say continue, okay, and we are done with this consent screen, what happens is that Google now sends back a callback, okay, gives us a response, gives us a callback, okay. That callback is this endpoint here, okay. So this one is for the consent screen. Then this one is for the callback, the result that Google now sends back saying, okay, things are okay. Is this one, whether not only things being okay, even when they are bad, okay. And this one will have a number of query parameters. The first one is a code, okay, an error, and a state. This is the state that we have up here, okay, this one here, okay. So, and then finally we also get a dependency. Why do we have a dependency? Because we want to interact with our database. That's why we have this session dependency, okay. I'm sure, I hope, I don't know to say I'm sure, but I hope everybody remembers what dependencies are in FastAPI, okay, and how they work. So yeah, this function is going to be responsible for handling the callback, like I've said, from Google. And then we're going to exchange a code, okay? Google, okay, will give us a code which we shall exchange for an access token, okay, to do the verification, okay, and it helps us to protect our transaction and communication from malicious attackers, okay, because we're the only ones who have the access token. That's why I told you the access token has to be private, okay. So if your malicious attacker has your access token, you're finished, okay. So we need to do that exchange, okay, then fetch user details from Google, okay, and if the user exists in our database, okay, well and good, okay, we generate a token for them. Otherwise, we create that user, okay, and then generate a token, then redirect to the front end. So at this point, when we hit continue, remember up to this point, we have only this first endpoint being executed, okay. So when we hit continue, what we shall now do is redirect to the front end, okay, but it will first call this, okay, and then the result of this function will redirect to the front end, like I'm going to show you, okay. But remember, line 69 says there can be an error, okay. So if we get an error, we simply log and say there's an error which happened with GoogleOAuth, okay, and we return a redirect response again to the front end, okay, auth/login, but this time with a query parameter saying error equals to the error message, okay, and front end URL is simply being picked from the environment variable, also here called front end URL, okay. Once we are done with that, we check the code, okay. If there is no code, we say GoogleOauth is also missing a code, okay, and return a redirect response, okay, to the login page with an error saying no code, okay. Maybe this should be even better, okay. I'm thinking of putting a better message, but you can suggest. Then here we now do the exchange. We exchange now the code for the tokens, okay. We use the HTTPS client, okay. Then we say await client.post, okay. We specify the token URL. What is token URL? It's up here, okay. Token URL equals to https auth2.googleapis.com.token, not the token, but /token. This is what we use, okay, to do the exchange, okay. So don't cram this, understand it whenever you need it. In fact, I'm going to push this code to GitHub. If you need it, copy, paste, tweak it the way you want it to be, okay. Yeah, and actually this is already available in the documentation, okay. And if you can get AI to generate it for you, well and good, okay. But make sure you code review, and you can only do code review on things you understand. So we send a post request to that token URL, okay. And what data do we send as our payload? We send the code which they gave us, okay. This code that we have received, okay. So this code can even come from a malicious hacker, who knows, okay. Then we also send the client ID. Remember, we got it from the Google Cloud Console, and we are picking it from our environment. After that, where is it? We also pass the client, the redirect URI, and the grant type, which is authorization code. Okay, so make sure you have exactly this structure. Then we check if the token response is not a 200, okay, we say the token exchange failed. Maybe there's an expiry or invalid code or invalid access token for any reason, okay? Then we return a redirect response, okay, with an error message saying token exchange failed, something like that, okay? Otherwise, if things are okay, we pick the tokens, okay? We unpack the tokens by saying token response of JSON, okay? Then from the tokens, we get the access token, okay? Now, using this access token, do you know what we do? We send information to the Google user info URL to pick details about the user. So the Google user info URL is https www.googleapis.com oauth2 v2 user info. So these are still APIs. We are making APIs. So you see that in this project, we have worked with about maybe 4 or 5 external APIs. And this is something you're going to be doing as a software developer. A lot. What you're already doing. So once we are done with that, where is this? Where is this? Where were we? Okay, right here. Okay, now in the headers, we send an authorization header. Okay, bearer space, then the access token. Okay, remember that access token is only got when we make a request to the Google token URL using a client.post request. Okay, the URL and the data. Once it passes, we shall get the access token, which we now use to get information about the user. Okay, if it fails, we log an error and return a redirect response with the error. Okay, otherwise, if things are good, we get the JSON version of that response. Okay, pick the Google ID and pick the email. Okay, so if there's no email or Google ID, still we know that there's an issue. Okay, and we simply return a redirect response to the login page. If everything is okay and there's a Google ID, meaning this user already exists, okay, we try to check our database, okay, if we can get a user by their Google ID, okay. If I go to this function, simply performs a normal ORM execution, okay, a normal ORM statement saying session.execute, which what are we executing? This statement. Select from user in DB where user in DB.Google ID equals to this Google ID. As simple as that. Then if this user exists, okay, we log that the user was found. Okay, the user has logged in. Otherwise, if there is no user, we try to get the user by email. Okay, try to get the user by email. If that user already exists by email, okay, so this function we created this function a long time ago. Okay, maybe within the first 10 streams. If the user exists by email, okay, we simply we now link that user, okay, to their Google ID. Okay, so we log that we're now linking that user's email to the Google account. Okay, and we use this function called link Google account. If I go to it, okay, how does the linking happen? Okay, simply says user.google ID equals to Google ID. Okay, and if the auth provider is an email, we say user.auth provider equals to Google. No, but this is actually wrong. Okay, if user.auth provider equals to email, user.auth provider equals, this should be Google. Both of them should be oh, I understand. I was wondering why I have this. Okay, so if the user.auth provider equals to email, we change it. Okay, we change it to Google. Yeah, change it to Google. Otherwise, if it was already Google, we leave it. Okay, so we're only changing it if it is email. Then of course we session add, commit, refresh, and return. The usual stuff we've been doing. Otherwise, we simply say creating new user. Okay, we create a new user in case the user does not exist totally. So I go to create Google user. Here we create an user in DB instance, okay, and pass the email, the Google ID, the auth provider, and the password none. Why password none? This is a social login. No one is going to enter their password, okay? Then we session add, commit, refresh, return the user as usual. Okay. Once that all this is okay, we have checked that the user maybe exists by the Google ID. If they exist, we immediately create a token for them. If they don't exist, we check if they exist by their email. If they exist by their email, we link their Google account. okay? If they don't exist by Google ID and they don't exist by the email, then we create this new user, okay? And we're saying create Google user for now. If all we are now done with our user, okay, we are sure that a user exists in our database, we create an access token for them, okay, using the use of the function that we created, I think, between day 2 and day 10, okay. Then after that, we now have these functions, the group response and the user response, okay. So we simply figure out the groups a user is in, okay, and then use those groups, okay, in the user response right here. Saying the groups equals to these groups. Very simple, okay. Then here now we now we have logic to determine where to redirect the person to, okay. So by default, we shall redirect someone to the home page, okay. But if the state was preserved, okay, meaning that we had this state here, okay. Remember the state that we have from here, okay, this one, okay, this one. We then receive it here, okay. We receive it here. When we receive it, okay, and it actually exists, okay, we redirect to it, okay. So we get that state encode to base64 string, okay. Then you can just log a message saying we have decoded the redirect target, okay. In case there's a decoding error, we log it also, okay, and that's redirect to the home page. So if this is the state, we redirect to it, okay, as simple as that. All right, so in the end, the redirect URL will be the frontend URL /auth/google/callback $token equals to the GWT token we generated, and the user will be equals to the user model to JSON, okay, and the redirect, okay, will be equals to the redirect URL, okay, but we apply the quote function to it, the Python quote function to it, and then we simply return a redirect response to help us redirect our page. And to redirect to this page, I said auth Google callback, okay. I want to show you this page on the front end. So I'll minimize the backend and go to the front end. Source app auth Google callback. Then this is the page will be applied. Do you understand it? Okay. Let me show you. Where is this? 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 I think it is auth referring to this directory. Okay. Remember this is Next.js, so it's going to do folder routing. Okay, directory routing. So auth maps to this auth. Google maps to this directory. Google callback maps to this directory. Google callback. Okay. Then the actual page will be this one. Okay. And it will accept those query parameters that we have added to it. So it's actually very simple. Okay. And then finally, in main.py, we register that router here. Okay. Say oauth.router, just like we registered other routers. And of course, before we have to import it. Okay. So I'll minimize the front end, the back end, and then show you a few things. I don't know if there's anything I've missed out in the back end. I think that's it. So for the front end, okay, front end is even easier. Okay, so on that page, on that callback page, okay, you know what happens. Okay, we simply have an interface, a TypeScript interface, which represents a user. Okay, the ID, the email is active, is super user, which is the boolean, the auth provider, which is the string, and then the groups. Okay, having the group ID and the name. Very simple. Then here, okay, we have a component. Okay, export default function Google callback page. This component, okay, has a number of state variables. Okay, we have a router first of all defined. We have search params. Okay, for helping us to pick the query parameters. We have the login state from zoostand. Okay, we have the error and set error. Okay, the error state and the function for setting that error, processing state, and the function for setting the processing state. Then we have a use effect hook, okay, which is going to run based on the following things, okay, in this dependency array. If the search params changes, process callback will be called. If the login state changes, process callback will be called. If the router changes, process callback will also be called. Okay, so let us look at process callback. Process callback simply picks the token, the user, and the error from the URI on the backend. Let me show you to make sure you understand all this. Once you understand these things, trust me, you can play with it anyway. So you see, we have the token, okay, we have the user, and we have the redirect. Do you see that? Token, user, redirect. Redirect, user, token. Okay, that is exactly what we are picking on the front end B here. I want to quickly go to it. Google. Okay. So you see, token, user. Okay. If there's an error, we set the error, set processing to false, and return immediately. If there's no token or no user, we set an error saying missing authentication data, set processing to false, return immediately. Okay. We don't want to do more than that. Okay. Then if everything is okay, we parse, okay, to get the user data. Okay. And from that user data, we build a new object called authUser. That authUser object is going to be made up, or is made up of, properties and values which are built from this user. Okay. Remember, this user is simply what we are getting, what we are encoding here. Okay. User data.model dump. As simple as that. Okay. So authUser is made up of an ID, which is user.id, an email, which is simply user.email, groups, okay, we map, we get user.groups.map, because remember it's a list. Okay, then for every group, okay, we return simply an object which is made up of the group name and the permissions. Okay, for now it is simply an empty list because it's a regular user, you don't have permissions at this point. Team Logic Legend says, I'm curious, what are the best situations in this case to use token or session based auth? For now, in my case, I prefer token authentication, because with token authentication, I don't have to, the backend doesn't have to remember the session state. Okay, that whole identity that someone has been authenticated is simply stored in a token. Okay, so I don't need that. In the event that you need to remember session state, okay, go for session-based authentication. Okay, where the backend has to track and know and store the state of a session, okay, or the state of authentication. So you can go with that. Okay, that is when you can use session-based authentication. But in my case, I don't need session-based authentication. Okay, yeah, maybe more on that in a few minutes. As I go ahead to wrap this up. Okay, I am going to answer more on that. But that's a very good question. Team Logic Legends. That's a good question. So once we have this auth user built in, now we can use our login function. Remember our login function from ZooStand? We pass the token and the auth user. Then we redirect to, okay, search params.get redirect. Remember, that is simply this. We're simply picking this, okay, from the backend. Okay. Then we pick it from that URL. Okay. Then we have it there extracted to this variable, which is a constant. So if that URL exists, okay, and it's not the home page, we push you to that page. Otherwise, okay, we check the groups. Okay, we check the groups. Be like, okay, is this person an admin? Okay, if this person is an admin, we push the admin page. Otherwise, we push simply the home page if you are a regular user. Like always, things can go wrong. Okay, so you have to prepare. So we can do a console.error, okay, and we set an error. Okay, actually, I've discovered there's even a better way of handling some of the errors in this application. Okay, I am going to remove all alerts and use toasts. But that is not going to happen in a stream. I want to do it offline, okay? Because I want to cut on the number of streams and videos we can have for this series, okay? So that we have purely just a few main features and concepts that I want you to understand. Then, of course, this is the entire definition of process callback. So the best way to understand code is by reading it, okay? Read the code, understand it for yourself. If you can't understand it, ask me questions. If you can't ask me questions, ask AI. If AI is not brilliant, you can join maybe forums online, okay? And ask people who are experienced. I'm sure they'll be happy to help you. So in case there's an error, okay, we shall have this GSX, okay, this div, okay, being displayed, okay. So I don't have to get into explaining Tailwind classes and HTML and what, okay. But you can see, but this is what is displayed, okay. This div, okay, is displayed. Otherwise, if it is processing, we have this div, okay, with a simple message saying completing sign in. This other stuff is simply design, okay. That's what we majorly have on the front end. Then the number of things, okay, like on login, but they're not actually that big, okay. For example, like this redirect to, okay, changed a little bit. I even don't think it changed. What changed should be down. Should be down. Where is it? Here, yeah. So do you remember that? Let me cancel, okay. If I cancel this, are you seeing this design here? Okay. Discontinue with Google. Okay. Discontinue with Google. It's actually here. Okay. So I didn't design it from my head. Okay. I simply gave a smart prompt to AI. Okay. To generate it for me. But it's actually a form. See, if I minimize it, this is a form. Okay. We have two forms, the login form. Okay. And the sign up form. This login form, if you look at it critically, okay. And you see the type, okay? Type is button. On click, this is where the trick happens. On click, okay? On click, we have a redirect to, okay? Say redirect equals to redirect to, which if now, this is actually very tricky. I'd actually even forgotten about it. Look at this, okay? We have a variable called redirect, okay? If the redirect to is not equals to the home page, okay? We build it, okay, by starting with a question mark, meaning it's going to be a query parameter, okay. Then we say redirect is equals to encode URI component, okay, redirect to, okay. We encode it, okay, using this JavaScript inbuilt function called encode URL component. What does it do? It simply encodes a text string as a valid component of a URI, as simple as that, okay. That is why you see the backend here, okay, is able to pick. I want you to see how the things come together. The backend is able to pick, okay, this redirect, okay, because of this, okay. Then when you click, we say window.location.href. This will now redirect. Okay, so you say window.location.href, okay. This is actually what makes the front end redirect, okay. Process.env.nextPublic API based URL. So this points to the domain of the backend, okay. In our case, to be localhost, okay, at port 8000 / maybe API / v1 in case we have that, okay. But we don't have API versioning here, okay. So I think I might have to talk about it. Oh my god, there's a lot to do, okay. I can't finish everything, okay. But please study API versioning, okay. Study API versioning. It's very simple, okay. So this points to our APIs base URL /auth/Google. Then we add redirect, okay. So auth Google is this, okay, is this, okay. Remember the API router prefix is /auth. So it will be /auth/Google, as simple as that, okay. So the browser takes the user to this endpoint here, okay, which will trigger this, okay, and will in then return also the auth URL consent screen. Do you get it now? Okay. Then this other icon here of Google, okay, this icon of Google is simply an SVG. This SVG here, just a design, okay, with this path, okay, to design Google. This one designs Google. Then continue with Google is just text. This one you're saying continue with Google. As simple as that. Nothing complex. Okay. Then after that, we have, oh my God, I clicked on it. Let me go back. Okay. Then we have this part which says, or continue with email. Okay. Which is the previous part, or continue with email. Then the usual stuff that we always have. Okay. So very, very, very simple, very simple. Okay. Nothing hard here. Okay. Nothing hard here. I've just discovered we haven't implemented forgot password, things like remember me. Sometimes I think we have about maybe 9 videos to finish this, but when I see such things, I'm like, oh my God, how come I didn't talk about remember me and forgot password? But luckily for us, we have actually the endpoint, okay? Only the integration remaining. So yeah, that is how we have it. So hand on, when that happens, everything flows for us, okay? And every other step now goes on. So this is how actually it happens, okay? Everything starts from here, okay? This is what happens. This call, okay? This line of code, 183, calls this path operation, okay? This whole logic is run through, which returns this response, okay? Which is a direct response to this Google Auth URL, okay? Which gives us this consent screen. If I click this, okay, we get this screen, okay? Let me first choose an account. Okay, it gives us this screen. Okay, then after that, after getting this screen, do you know what happens? Okay, we then, after I click here, continue. Okay, our callback initiated. Then you see, I think, did you see completing sign in? Okay, completing signing is what we had here. Completing signing, the callback. Okay, but under the hood, but because of course it happens very fast. Okay, it's very hard to show you in real time. It happens very fast. Okay, but the callback is executed. Okay, which in then calls our frontend again with this URL. Okay, so very simple. Okay, and of course when I was building this, I ended up I wiped everything, the database, everything. Okay, and just to show you the redirect URL works. If I go to, let me go to what I want to go to this page. I want to go to this page, my bookings. Okay, so right now you see there's no booking. Okay, I wiped everything. Okay, and rebuild everything. So here I can so if I want to show you that we can come back to the same page. Okay, if I log out, okay, and I quickly log in with Google again, you're going to see that the redirect state was kept. Okay, so completing signing, you see we are back to this page. Isn't that awesome? Okay, so this is how you can deal with this. Okay, and I believe that in the current age we are in, okay, these are features that could take maybe more time to execute and implement. But in this current age, we're in an age whereby you need to learn very fast, be able to generate stuff using code, I mean using generative AI, and be able to review it and understand it. Okay, so my goal in these videos will just be to make sure concepts are understood properly, okay, so that you can go around and play with things however you like. Okay, yeah, so this is what I I what I can I can say concerning this. Okay, earlier on, Team Logic asked a very good question. Okay, and I just wanted to say a little bit more about it. Okay, a comparison between token-based authentication, for example, using JSON Web Tokens or JWTs, like they call them, versus session-based. Okay, they're mainly things or features. I can call them features that you need to think about. Okay, things like the state. Okay, the clients. Okay, and just your architecture. Okay, in the case like ours, okay, where we're having an event-driven architecture at some point, okay, you want token-based authentication, okay, to work for you. because it is stateless. Okay, you don't want to keep that moving around. Okay, yeah, that's what I can say for that. Okay, and and if your client, for example, is like a mobile device, or a single page application, like maybe a React application, a VGS application, token-based authentication is awesome. Okay, but if your client is like a traditional web application, for example, like a Django, imagine you're building Django, okay, and you're using Django templates, or you're building FastAPI with FastAPI templates, okay, what they call Ginger templates in Python. Trust me, okay, the traditional way of building things, okay, you'd want to have session-based authentication, okay, because there you need to store the state, okay, properly, okay, so that as the person moves through the templates, as the user moves through the templates, okay, you can track the session even in templates, okay. But where you're going to split the client, okay, and the client is a separate mobile app, a single page application like a React application, then you need GWTs. That is something else I can say about that. Guys, if you've enjoyed this stream, I urge you to like this video, okay, and share. Like it. Let's have the YouTube algorithm know that this is valuable stuff, okay. Yeah, and for example, in our case where we're having Kafka, you know that when you have a token-based system, okay, it is excellent for Kafka usage because we can easily pass the token in message headers, okay. Yeah, but now if you're using a session-based system, okay, it can be very poor, okay, because our consumers wouldn't be, I don't think they can read, okay, the consumers won't be able to read the web cookies, okay, because if you're talking about session-based authentication, then you're working with cookies essentially, okay, to manage the session. Yeah, so in summary, I can say go with tokens, okay, if you plan to have different services, okay, that need to know maybe who triggered an event, like in our case, okay, or you're having like a mobile client or a single page application, that can work, okay. Then go with sessions, okay, if you don't care about maybe things like, if, for example in our case, if you're working with Kafka and you don't care about user context, okay, you can go with sessions, or if everything runs inside a single monolithic application, okay, if you have a solid monolith, okay, bundled up together, okay, like in case of Django templates, okay, or even in FastAPI if you have templates, or if you're in like Node.js and you're working with things like EJS and templates, okay, and it's a single bundle and a single monolith, then session-based auth is very good, okay, very good and performant in that way. But if you need uh separation of concerns, okay, between clients, then uh tokens are much better. Yeah, so that's it for today, okay. I'm gonna push this code to GitHub, and you can clone it, you can make use of it, you can play around with it, okay. Yeah, so yeah, just to wrap up, team logic, session based, very good for monolithic apps, okay. Yeah, and GWT is best for microservices, mobile apps, single page apps, okay, high scale stuff. All right, bye for now, guys. The chat has no major questions, so I'll wrap up here for today. Like, share, and let's grow this, okay. All right, bye for now, and we'll meet in the next stream.